And the other story I wanted to tell was I made lots of trips to Guatemala, but eventually I lived there for a year. I took a year leave of absence. I lived there and I was teaching in Ciudad Vieja, which is the city that's like 5 kilometers from Antigua. And I was teaching, it was the middle of the afternoon, and the other teacher came in and told the kids that they needed to take me home, that everybody needed to go home, and that they needed to walk me home because the guerrillas were in town, and they thought that I should get home to be safe. And so I told the kids, I don't think you need to walk me. I think I'm okay. I'm safe. They're not going to bother me. I think you guys should just go home, and I'll go home on my own. But they didn't. They walked me home.
Why weren't you afraid of the guerrillas?
I guess because at that time I understood, at least from my understanding, is that they were there to convince people of their cause. They were there on meeting. They'd have meetings and they'd bring people in and people would stand around and listen, and they would explain their cause, and they would try and round up supplies. And also, I mean, they were trying to get other people to go and fight with them. I think that was always part of it. And anyway.
While you lived in Guatemala, how did they portray what was going on in the news?
There wasn't a lot in the news, but the people talked about it a lot. But you didn't see a lot in the news, or I guess I didn't really. I don't think they really put much in the news because I read the newspaper every day, and I don't remember reading very much about it. There were these magazines though that I got that every once in a while there'd be a story in there. And I remember reading about it. But I would talk to people about it because I was interested in it. And I guess people were really confused and they weren't sure. They didn't feel safe with the guerrillas and they didn't feel safe with the army. But what happened, which I thought was really interesting, is it was almost like 2 minutes after the guy stopped talking. It's like they know how long it takes the government to get there. Or the government, I couldn't decide if the army was waiting for them to finish their speech. And then they came barreling into the town, and at the time, just like right after they had left. Because what the guerrillas do is they seal off both entrances to the town so no one can come in. And then when they see the army coming up the road, they disperse and head to the volcano and head to the trees.
And how did the U.S. portray what was going on? And
I was in Guatemala for a year during that year, but when I was at home, there's not a lot of news a lot of times in the United States about what they say small wars going on in other places. All I know is that the government was supporting arms and was supporting money to help the democracy of Rios Montt, who was the president at the time, and that democracy, because they wanted Guatemala to be a democracy because they did not want it to be a dictatorship. And before that, there was a dictatorship. But even though Rios Montt really was a dictator, they continued to support them. And so I don't think I was in danger by either group of being there, so I felt pretty safe. Some of these pictures. That one